Mate, welcome to the Consistency Club podcast. Welcome to anyone watching as well. And thrilled to have you. So obviously I'll allow you to introduce yourself shortly, but just to give people a very, very quick background. Christopher has been a client of mine inside the Consistency Club now for a while. And the main premise of this conversation is to discuss his journey, really. Discuss his journey as a client, his career, his family life, and everything that makes you, Christopher. It's been a really good journey, and obviously want to delve into the reasons for improving your health and wanting to invest in this area of your life, which we'll touch on. Before we do so, one question which I started on the last podcast and we're going to run as a segment. Tell me what you think is the biggest metric to success. What's the one thing that you believe moves the needle in relation to success within someone's life?
Accountability. It's as simple as that. It's easy to get caught up in, I can't do it for X, Y reason, or I can't do it for certain people, family, or people within work or friends. There's always a particular reason why you can always justify it, or in your own mind justify things. But again, until you take that accountability, you're not going to actually get anywhere, really. You're just going to keep making excuses. So, yeah, that's my main point.
100%. Brilliant answer. And actually, there's two sides of the fence to the accountability conversation, isn't there? Which, is a huge portion of what we do. We've got self-accountability, which is really a mindset that you adopt and you fight against low motivation, logistical issues that happen within your life. But that self sort of accountability almost needs to be a pillar or a character trait that you abide by. And then you've got external accountability, which obviously, like I said, in terms of the Consistency Club, that's a huge portion of what we do and have done for you and have done for our clients, is someone sat exterior to your situation that can hold you accountable when you're in those moments where you feel stretched, excuse me, whether that's in work, stressed out because of family and everything else that life can throw at us. So a really, really interesting point that you raised there, and we can get into the accountability side of things actually, because maybe that was a huge portion for why you invested in the end. Obviously, the name, the Consistency Club, as I say on every podcast, the namesake of this podcast as well, I believe consistency is up there, but accountability is a huge part of your process and huge part of our process. So I second everything that you say. So fantastic way to start the podcast, mate. And let's get into it. That's quite a nice transition. So you've raised accountability as a point. Was that one of your biggest motivating factors for investing, not just in your health, but investing in a coaching service and me as a coach to say, come be on my shoulder and put me straight?
Yeah, well, it's a lot of different factors that go into making that decision. For me, it was mainly down to the mindset, really, because, again, as we discussed previously, I've always been into sports and fitness and even going to the gym at certain points, and it got, to a point where sort of obsessive, where, I'm spending hours and hours and hours in the gym every day. So it was the case of, you then start to get fatigued, and then you start falling out of love with actually doing it, because obviously in the beginning you start seeing the results. You see the biggest results in the beginning, and then as soon as you get to a certain goal, it's a lot harder to start consistently seeing improvements. So the motivation then and the drive to get yourself there is a lot harder as you keep progressing. So that way, obviously, having someone to push you in the background and just making sure, you're doing the things that you say you're going to do. Because again, it's easy to fall back into that routine of, I'll do it tomorrow, or it's only one, it's chocolate bar and a pack of crisps, and then all of a sudden, I'm eating 2 or 3 of them a day.
Yeah.
But it's a good experience, and it's the case of things happen, things come up, but still, it's not just the having to go and say, right, because I missed a training session, killing yourself over it. This is the case of, okay, you missed one training session, how am I going to make up for it? Or, okay, I missed one training session, okay, how can I be more consistent? How can I maybe time management better? And sort of just analysing your situation there. Sure. Things happen, so you just have to just overcome that, regardless of if it's, the right way straight away. But again, nothing's ever solidified. You just push on, move on, get on with the next thing.
Exactly that. And I feel like I want things happen written on this wall somewhere, because that is life, isn't it? It's so, so true. And do you know what? The amount of times working in this industry, I've heard, you know what? super busy right now or going for a busy period, or yeah, maybe later on in the year things happen. And there's never a perfect time to do it. If you're waiting for a perfect time, what happens when that perfect time ends? Because it inevitably is, and then you kind of bounce back. So, how have you found, actually, on that note, what was the most valuable thing for you inside the service as you've gone through your journey? Was it that point to be able to constantly check back and have someone check you and to get back on the horse? Was it the direct accountability? Was it the contact and support to actually jump on and have a conversation? What did you find was the best bit for you?
So all great points to have someone, pushing you from the background. Again, whether you see someone physically, the trainer physically, for example. I think the main point for me was having to be working in sales and working with European and global international customers. The time zones are completely different. I could be someone that could be maybe 2, 3, 4 hours in front of me, and I'm starting work at 6 o'clock, for example, for a meeting. Or it could be the other way around, where I'm meeting someone potentially in the US or something like that, and all of a sudden I'm having meetings at 7, 8, 9 o'clock in the night. So my time scale, then it was hard to sort of manage my diary. Okay, I'm going to do this on the Monday, because I could have nothing in my diary on that Monday, and then all of a sudden I've had like 6, 7, 8 meetings on that Monday, and they've all been booked for me the same day. So it was the case of, where other PTs, for example, you're sort of abiding by their time, because again, they have other clients. They're only in maybe the gym certain times. So for me, it was important to have that flexibility of, when can I do my session? When can I fit that in? Because again, like I said, if my schedule is constantly moving around, someone could contact me, call me up at any moment and say, listen, I need your help. So it was a case of, okay, I have to do that. I get on with that. And then I had the ability to then continue my working out, my eating plans or something. So it was the case of, I had my time frame expanded. It's not the case that I just said, right, I got to go 5 o'clock. I got a space in my diary. I'm going to go to the gym, because again, these things start kicking you back out that time. So if you miss that day, then because of work or family or something, all of a sudden you're doing it the next day, and then the next day, and then you're 3 months behind and not even going to the gym. So
yeah,
it's good. And I think that was the main and the crucial factor for me to join this. It was the case of, I can still get the fitness, still get the exercises in, but still continue to deal with family, deal with work, and not have to sort of say it's either one or the other.
So the flexibility was the biggest thing for you, which is huge, right? And it's why, I come from the personal training background. It's why our service is remote these days, and a lot of people, there's value to a face-to-face service, of course there is, but as you said, you're locked down to a geographical location at a set time for someone to essentially be a glorified rep counter for you. But actually, the biggest kind of marker movers sit outside of what you do on a training basis as well. It's the habits, it's the way you live your lifestyle, it's the nutrition, it's your sleep, it's analyzing the data and correlating that data back to each other all the time. And you can't do that as a personal trainer. It's just not the models. I'm glad it's given you the flexibility within your routine, which is key, and obviously you've needed it, which takes us to your lifestyle right now. So how do people, obviously you're a father, you have a successful career, you work in sales. I can already tell from working with you for a while that you'll be bloody good at your job. So, talk to me about how you got to where you are today. Let's relate that, if you don't mind, back to your previous experience, because we went on a slightly different journey in terms of when we connected. This was actually about not having a specific, setting the emojis off now, not having a specific goal necessarily, and actually tapering it down so you don't get stuck or lost in that cycle of full commitment, obsessive, addicted to training where you were previously, and building you more of a sustainable and manageable lifestyle that still improves your health over time, but does it with flexibility. So that was a nice kind of mix up. Sometimes people come to us from a dead stop and they're like, I need to build. And it was a different journey with you. So talk to me about that process, obviously your career, how you're a family man, home life, and then lead into your previous experience as well, if you don't mind.
Yeah, well, I don't want to bore people too much in terms of just the generalization of my life, really. But yeah, so in terms of, obviously, family has always come first for me. Since having my daughter, it's obviously the highlight of my life. It's easy to say that, and don't get me wrong. There's times where obviously the kids push your boundaries.
Yeah,
You'll obviously find out more and more as
absolutely.
time goes on. But it's the case of, yeah, how am I going to be able to balance the both and work? Obviously, for me, that has always tried to progress into whatever company I've been into. Don't get me wrong, the same as my kids do, I push boundaries. As simple as, when you're ambitious and you want to go somewhere, you just want to get there. And you want to get there as quickly as possible. And that's exactly how I've seen everything, including training. So it was the case of every single year, train flat out for 6 months because I know I'm going on holidays. And
Yeah.
I trained as much as I could just to get in the actual shape that I wanted to get into. And then you go on holidays, you relax, you come back, and you can't be bothered to do anything. So you spend
Yeah.
6 months, not doing anything, and you just get in
There's
that
so
routine.
many people that will relate to that, by the way, 100%, because that it's the way most people work, isn't it? It's like training for summer, the motivation dies, and I'll just let it slip for winter, get through Christmas, and we'll see what happens the other side of that, basically, isn't it?
Exactly. So yeah, it was the case of that was my routine. I wanted everything as quick could, and I'd work my ass off in whatever I did to try to get there as quickly as I could. And probably bumped heads with a lot of people on the way because obviously, you want to get in one place. They are telling you, it will come. Just take your time,
Yeah.
be patient. And of course, I think since having my daughter, patience has come um, a lot more to what I had
Yeah.
previously. So it sort of made me realize, okay, it's okay to have a goal. It's okay to go for it. And by all means, if it's achievable, do it in a short time scale, do it. If there's no stopping you, but again, is the case of don't go putting yourself and your health and railroading other people just to get where you want to be. And that's sort of how I look at things now. It's the case of okay, family comes first, fit health, my health and well-being obviously comes second to that. It's the case of if I can then lead by example, so that they can see that okay, I'm doing whatever, if it's sports, running, weights, whatever, if I'm still capable of doing that, then and again the eating habits, if I'm eating crisps and things around them all the time, then they're going to pick up them. So it's
Yeah.
the case of okay, how can I try to push them and steer them into a different direction? It's easy again. If it's easy for me to get bogged down, imagine what it's like for a kid. So I try and look at it through that lens, rather than obviously when you're younger, you tend to think, no, I only have
Yeah.
to focus about myself. Right, okay, I got a goal. I know where I want to go. I'm getting there, and let's get there quick. But again, that's sort of an overview in terms of how I look at things,
Mm.
my situation. Everyone's got different situations. Some people might like to have the summer bod and then go into winter. It's entirely up to them. But for me, it's the case of just being consistently, at least healthy. Don't need to
Yeah.
have, six pack all year round. It's the case of as long as I'm healthy, able to run around and do the things I like to do without being out of breath, then I'm happy with that.
Yeah, which I think, is an overall more existential goal that I would like to think most people should have. I truly don't believe many people sit in the position of getting in shape and getting out of shape and love it. You're essentially living, which I did for a while, the bodybuilder lifestyle of like, right, I'm in competition prep, I'm as lean as possible, and then I'm pushing weight as hard as I can. It's not a healthy way to live. And at some point that introspection must happen to go, okay, outside of surface level things, what do I need to do this for if I'm in the long run? So I'm glad that kind of epiphany came to you, and it's been a pleasure to be a part of your journey. How have you found improving your health, being in tune, being within the service has helped on the side of your work and the side of being a father? Because a lot of people tend to think, I'm so busy, I haven't got the time. I need time with my kids as well. How am I going to? What's the time commitment? How am I going to commit all this time? So talk to me about the journey for you from that perspective, because I'm always sat here preaching, and I've experienced this myself, taking hundreds of clients through it, and I truly believe this. Your health is the foundation of everything that you do. more energy, more vigor, more productivity, better mood, chemical balance, our testosterone levels, everything we do, all these things stem from our health and our daily habits. So hopefully you've experienced that. But I'll open the floor up to you to tell everyone, and I'd love to learn this as well, because I don't think we've actually gone into detail on this. Like, how are those, what we've been doing, correlated and translated into those other areas?
So it's probably, again, might be a bit of a broad topic, and then you could probably narrow it down to quite a lot of things. But again, the whole point that I started doing this was mental health. Without having the mentality to, and accountability to say to yourself, right, I need to do this. You're always going to be in that vicious circle. So it was a case of, I thought, when we had that conversation, I thought there's no point saying anything. We had the one conversation, and I said, come on, let's do it then. It was just a case of, because I know in the end I'd probably end up talking myself out of it for whatever reason. People may say don't have the time, don't have the, could be resources, it could be anything that's happening. But it's the case of, if you don't start, you're never going to get anywhere. So for me, it was all purely down to the mental side of things. And I'll be completely honest, one of the big factors for me was to help with mental clarity was the cold showers in the morning, and also the breathing technique. It sounds simple, and it sounds as if, okay, I don't think that's going to do much, but it's surprising how much that can do to then just calm you down. Because again, having a hectic lifestyle, not managing your daily activities very well, you're going to get flustered. You're going to get bogged down. You're going to sort of get frustrated, not with, well, primarily with yourself, but you get frustrated and take it out on others. So just having cold showers in the morning, doing the breathing techniques, it literally feels as if like everything is just all like that, is just relieving the body. And then you start to think, okay, how am I going to do this? And then you just assess, plan, and just action. It's
interesting, isn't it? Because they and I'm glad you raised those two things, because that's actually a really, really important point. Those things that you particularly the cold showers or cold plunging or cold water therapy, whatever people do, that never gets easier, right? You don't do it for 6 months and then you wake up one day and be like, wow, I can't wait to get in that freezing cold water. It just doesn't work like that. So it's a constant battle. And to be honest with you, it can be same with the breath work. Even though we know the benefit from doing it, to still spend that 8 to 11 minutes every morning doing something that if someone watched you doing, they'd be like, Christopher, what are you playing at? Do you know what I mean? It's a strange thing to do, and it still requires energy. You're doing it first thing in the morning, and every day there's a mental battle. Do I do it? Do I not do it? And that's what you're fighting against, and that's where the value is. Outside of the physical or the physiological benefits that you get from doing it, it's the win. Like, you've woken up and done two things that 99.9% of people don't do. Maybe 99 these days, because a bit of a drive with cold plunges and breath work, isn't there?
Yeah.
But that they don't do and they wouldn't do, they would try for a couple of days and they would give up. And you've bagged 2 wins early on that day. And that morning was why we're big on morning routine. Like, no matter what happens for the rest of the day, it goes to pot. You've got that in the bag and you've built momentum. That's given you, yes, the productivity, the mental clarity from the physiological side of things, but it's giving you that kind of dopamine hit and endorphin hit as well. And you've checked that box, which is super important. And that just spirals, doesn't it? Like, you take that into your day, you're more stress resilient, you're more alert, you have more energy, you feel like working out because you've already habit stacked. So you've ticked 2 boxes. Well, I want to tick more now. It gives you momentum. And so many people sit in this high angst state all day, every day, because they live in this organized chaos. They don't prioritize. They don't have any habits around their health. They don't prioritize it. And then you talk to them about health, and they're like, well, I don't have time for that. I couldn't possibly do that. And actually, if you kind of reverse engineer that structure, there is time. It's pockets of time, but there's time. And yes, you will expend a little bit more time. When we optimize it, you're probably wasting it anyway. But if we implement that time for you to do that in the morning, what you get back is, is tenfold, it's exponential. So I'm glad you've experienced that. So that morning routine has been big for you, would say?
Yeah, so like, I'm a morning person anyway. I much prefer waking up early and going to bed late. Going to bed early as well. Sorry. So like I used to be when I was younger, of course, stay up until 1, 2 o'clock into 3 o'clock in the morning, sometimes not sleep. I've been in that routine.
Yeah.
And as I've grown older, it's just a case of mornings just feel like as if I'm making most of the day, if
Sure.
that makes sense. And again, when you're waking up in the morning, and trust me, I'm in sales, so doing tasks, it's probably my least favorite thing. But it's a case of when when you know that what you need to do for that day, and you prioritize your day is okay. I get up. I'll take a shower, even if you don't even have to start off cold and just straight away do it cold. First of all, if you want to obviously have a nice warm shower, first of all, because it's maybe cold in the house, you haven't put the heating on, whatever the case is, you put it on warm, you do what you need to do, and then you just turn it cold. You just deal with it, and then
Yeah.
all of a sudden it just feels as if that all that heat is just completely removing from your body, going out to your sort of fingers and your toes, and it starts to feel nice. You start feeling a bit more relaxed. And then the good part about it, the even better part, is supposedly helps with stripping fat as well. So it's one of the best fat strippers. It's it's not just a case of okay, it sounds good and jump in it for 2 seconds. If you can spend a couple of minutes just doing it, once you get out, you just feel like a fresh person. You feel like a new person.
Yeah.
You're wide
And it's
awake.
almost, talk about habit stacking, although you're not doing it for a huge amount of time, it's almost a little bit like meditation in a way, because for that, whether you do it for 30 seconds or whether you're plunging for 5 minutes, for that time, there is nothing else on this planet that you can think about. The suck is real, isn't it? Like you're in it, it's horrible. Everything in your body, like your inner voice that we talk about all the time,
Yeah.
is screaming at you saying, get out. Like, what are you doing? You're fighting against it. You haven't got time to worry about what, the presentation that you got to do, or that bit of work that needs to be done and there's a deadline for, or the stresses of life. You're just in that moment, that present moment, and that's a big mental reset. And if you can do that every day and it can force you to be present and you can fight through that,
It's like
then it's
survival mode. It's your
100%.
body just forgets everything that you were thinking about. And again, I'm one of these people that you know sleeping was terrible for me. Again, getting to sleep was difficult in itself, but then staying asleep
Yeah.
was even worse. So it was the case of my mind was always constantly going. I was always thinking about things. If something happened in work, for example, and then all of a sudden, like 2 o'clock in the morning, I'd have like an idea. And I'm thinking, Christ, okay, so my brain just automatically wakes up, and then I'm thinking of these things. And the same thing is when you wake up in the morning, you're thinking about these things, and you go into a warm shower, and you're constantly still thinking about these things anyway. As soon as you hit that cold shower, you can't even think about anything else. Your body's just in that survival mode.
It's like a bullshit filter, isn't it? Basically.
Exactly, and that's the best part for me. It's the case
Yeah.
of maybe I should have done it in the night as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
Again, obviously, this came down to the conditioning, the help and support obviously you provided. Now I'm sleeping much better. I'm actually sleeping 8 hours a day.
Love it.
Not all the time consistently through, but the majority. It's like night and day considering when I first started to what I'm like now, and that was my whole goal. That my goal was to be mentally healthier, mentally stronger. And again, eating certain foods I didn't realize as well. Obviously, when you eat rubbish foods and you have obviously chocolate bars and crisps and things like that, it's not going to obviously sit well with your gut. It's as simple as that. You know that you still eat it, and it's the case of you're feeling bloated and uncomfortable. And then I think you give me some like three options, three different obviously meal plans. 5 meal preps per day. And I just said to you, I can't be dealing with that. I just want to
Yeah.
stick to one. And I stuck to the same foods every single day, more or less. So again, I wasn't perfect. I'm not making out I was. But it was the case of I ate pretty much everything that you told me to eat every single week. So the same breakfast, the same 5 meals, the same 5 portions every single day.
I
But
remember
again,
you
it's the
saying
case,
actually,
it's hard to do, and
yeah,
especially over that time period. But it's the case of like I weren't feeling fatigued. My stomach wasn't. I weren't feeling uncomfortable. The bloatedness had gone away. So it's the case of okay, yes, you'd eaten the same foods. it gets bland after a while. But that was my decision. I could have spiced it up. I could have chose, to do different things. I didn't. So
yeah. I mean, I remember you saying, so when I provided the option, I remember you saying, like, look, just keep this simple. Like, it's easier for me, and I'd rather it be that way, which is music to my ears, and that's the way I operate. Flexibility is key, and you said, I haven't been perfect. Perfectionism ruins your chance of consistency innately, doesn't it? So you have to have a certain amount of flexibility. You have to get to the weekend and be able to enjoy yourself or go out with the family or order the occasional takeaway, because what that does is hit the reset button mentally. Again, you go to Monday and you're like, you know what? I enjoyed myself. Let's get back to it. So it's been brilliant to see your transition and going back to the sleep thing, like seeing the data and how it's improved. Talk to me about, and you touched on mental clarity and things like that. Talk to me about what the sleep in particular is then translated and done for your daily energy. Because I think sleep is a chronic issue for millions of people. And actually, a lot of people don't know how to get themselves out of the rut. And usually there's some, really quick wins for them, but it comes down to a lack of routine. They're not sure where to start. But how is that improved sleep translated into your day to day?
So again, the hardest part. So say, for example, there's multiple different reasons there. So getting to sleep is the one, and then obviously waking up during the nights. If you're waking up at 2:00 and you're pacing around the house, unfortunately, you think, even doing work. So again, I found myself 2:00 in the morning doing work. Just because I had something on my mind, I wanted to get it out, I wanted to get it down, just to make sure I didn't forget. And I've done that plenty of times. And unfortunately, you start to, especially when you get into around about 10:00, you're on maybe your third coffee, and you're thinking, Christ, is this day ever going to end? You're just wishing that you're wishing the day is over so you can quickly get back into bed and hopefully recoup them hours that you've missed. And then again, you end up back in the same cycle, whereas you're struggling to get to sleep. As soon as the lights go off, it's like you're tired before when the TV's on, and then as soon as you hit the lights off, it's like your mind just starts going again. And again, it's in the vicious circle. So what I was finding myself doing was I was getting frustrated and angry over silly little things, things that never really would bother me. And I'm quite usually a laid back person. But what I was finding myself was, it was like I was tired, I wanted to go to bed, but I knew I couldn't. So it was the case of any time the smallest thing would happen, I'd get frustrated. And again, that just snowballs. So the easiest of tasks then become the most difficult because as you can't just do something that would take maybe 2 minutes to do, now it takes you 20. All of a sudden, other tasks start creeping up. Other things happen, whether it's family, people calling you. Speaking of,
that is scary timing.
That wasn't planned, I promise. But again, it was the case of these things. Then you start taking them out on other people. You start to get frustrated with things in work. Again, things that you'd maybe articulate a little bit better than you usually would. Rather than, listen, can we go about it this way? Because I think this might happen. You then say, listen, why have we got to why are you doing this? Why have we got to do this?
Combative all the time.
Yeah, and you just feel as if you're just a bit more confrontational. You just don't. You're getting yourself into that rut, and again, you're more frustrated with yourself than you are. But you take it out on everyone else. And again, that's where just keeping up to date with these things. Again, the comfort of, it's quite surprising how, when you go to the toilet before you go to bed, and then obviously you don't need to wake up during the night to go to the toilet again, certain things, and having yourself in a pattern that doesn't affect that sleep, it makes a big difference in terms of how you're able to think of things, and even think of things potentially before saying them, to know how it could potentially end up. So again, you start thinking of maybe 1, 2, 3 steps ahead, rather than thinking just at that time with the frustration that I need to give an answer now. You're basically thinking it through, and then obviously being a bit more articulate in the way you actually approach things.
100%. Yeah, it's so interesting. I've kind of faced it with Luca being born as well, my son. I found myself doing breath work 3-4 times a day sometimes, because you get to that point, as you said, it's 10, 11 o'clock. You're like, I'm flagging here, and all that kind of, everything else in my life is the same. Nutrition, I'm on point with. I'm still making the time to train. I'm still, doing what we're doing in coaching, the only thing that's different is the sleep, and the impact that it has is absolutely incredible. So you have to have some resources to overcome it. And there's times in life, as you experience as a dad, which you have to just give in, and it is what it is, and you control everything else that you can. But when you look at yourself and you realistically, is there something I can do here to improve, and you get some support to implement that, then the results should be profound. And I'm glad that you felt that. How have you found, because we touched on it earlier, a lot of people's initial objection is like, I just don't have the time for that. My rebuttal is, no two health journeys are ever the same. This, is particularly how we work at the Consist Club. It's not a carbon copy system that we just give to everyone, and some people have more time to execute, some people have less. It's designed around your own ecosystem. So if you've got 20 minutes to give us a week, then that's what we start with, and then we build it up over time. If you've got 3 days a week you can exercise, you can't meal prep, you have to look at alternatives, then that's what we focus on. But what would you say, and how have you managed it in terms of the time commitment, being a father, progressing your career as well, and managing this and improving your physical and mental health, really?
I'll be honest, I think maybe a lot of people, including myself, lie a little bit in terms of I don't have any time. I think everyone does have time. It just depends on what part of the week. Again, this goes into the fact into things that, are you going to bed late at night? Are you waking up early? It's what is that routine first of all, and again, putting yourself in that routine then frees up that time. Is how you manage your time, really. And again, I was sort of one of them people that said, yeah, I'm busy. I got lots of things going on, but do I really not have half hour in a single day? And again, like I said to you, because of my job and obviously things that's happened, things that happen with home and things like that. Yeah, I may not have a full half hour in my diary where I can say, right, I can do something start to finish. But what might happen is, as I said to you before, is I can start a workout, and then if someone calls, I just stop, and then obviously make the call, do my notes, get back to it, carry on. And again, is the one thing you always told me to do as well was do it with intensity, because again, you do not it's easy to say because I've done it before. You go to the gym and you spend maybe 20 minutes of your time either talking or on the phone or something like that.
Yeah.
Whereas if you're in the house and you just hit the routine with intensity, try and get it explosive as much as possible. Try and get things done within a shorter time scale, so that if anything does interrupt, or say for example, you set yourself an hour within that time to get something done. And again, things kept cropping up. If you were training hard to actually, get things done quick, obviously do it the right way. Of course, you don't want to get injured, but it's the case of don't be sitting around on the phone. Don't be looking at messages and emails while you're in between sets or reps. Just go there, do it, and then carry on with your day. And again, even if you can wake up half hour earlier just to start that, then you're going to feel better once you've done it. But again, it's the case of, I understand some people may be morning people, some people may be night people. Whatever you are, just find the time. Just manage your time. And again, if you work, for example, you're only contracted to do X amount of hours per day. Yes, you have to. The kids have to get the kids ready or something like that. Take them to school, walk them to school, and that's one thing I love to do: walk my daughter to school. Pick it up if I pick it up as and when I can. I try to avoid having things in that, because that's one of my favorite things to do. So if you do not want that, just block it out. Try and find half hour. If you can't do the full half hour consecutively, then do things in between. Do what you need to do, but obviously come back to you. But again, I work out from home, and that was my main reason. I can't go to the gym, travel, spend that time driving there, then go in there, and then if someone's on the weights that I need or doing the things that I need to do, it's the case of, oh well, I gotta wait, or I gotta go on, I'll do something else and then go back. So that was what worked for me, and that's what I preferred to do anyway. So
usually sat on their phone on their weights that you want to use as well. But that's so true. It's an important point, because you can't complain about having no time if you turn up and you're not optimal with your time in that building, in the gym, or whether you're working out at home, whether you're going for a run. If you're going to do something, you're going to spend the time. You may as well do it at 100% and get it
Yeah,
done, and not
and
half-ass
I
it.
exactly, and I feel like for myself, I always have times where I have to tell myself, right, just come on, just get it
Yeah,
done.
yeah,
It's because again, so that maybe the hardest part is to tell yourself, okay, let's do it now, because again, you keep pushing it back, pushing it back,
yeah,
pushing it back. So it's the case of obviously not just making yourself accountable and just doing it, but again, having you, okay, why haven't you done that or done that workout? Well, what's the reasons for that? And it feels like you're having to tell them off sometimes. But you do need that kick in the ass.
yeah.
That's one of the main things you need. You need someone to at least be pushing you to drive you. You can't be self motivated 100% of the time.
No. And that takes us completely full circle back to the first point, isn't it? And that is that accountability point. And I say this quite often to people, but it's a very important point. Like for our finances, whether it's in business or personal, we'll have financial planners or we have accountants. We go to the dentist for our teeth. We go to the doctors if we've got any impending medical issues. But what are we doing for our general health in terms of preventative maintenance? We're just 5 portions of fruit and vegetables a day, which most people don't get anyway. Some have a gym membership they never use. Some may be super targeted and doing loads of work. But where is that system? Someone who, or somewhat, or a team of people who can support you in the background that have the knowledge, have the understanding, learn you from genetics, the way you're motivated, the way you like feedback, and the way you respond to stimuli in terms of training and everything, and can kind of do it in a done for you package. You can just crack on being dad, developing your career. The reports are coming, the feedback sessions are coming, and the solution's going to be tailored. So that is really, really important, and it's a nice point to transition. I'd love to get a few words um, from you on, firstly, who you would recommend the service to. Obviously, the nature of people that we work with, but who you would recommend, and if you would recommend the service to anyone. And secondly, a few words on your experience and maybe some of the highlights that you've been through in the solution.
Well, I definitely recommend people. And again, it's the case of just taking that first initial step. I think especially people, if you're relating to the fact that what I went through in terms of your mental health, again, working from home, constantly in the house, you're working, you're not seeing the sun, for example, because that's all you're doing is just doing your daily routine, house, kids, same things constantly. So it's just take that first initial step, regardless of whatever anything is saying in the background. If you are suffering, physically or mentally right now, in any sort of way, shape, or form, don't just tell yourself, I'll do it tomorrow. You're better off just saying, and what I call it, and I don't know if I'm allowed to say this, but it's fuck it moments. I tend to have them moments, not too often now these days when you're younger. Obviously, again, you have a lot more of them. But now it's the case of I had that moment, and again, it's even telling, like having conversations. So still to this day, having conversations with my family, and
Mm.
them saying, "Wow, so you spent this money on doing this." My mother said to me just actually last week, saying, "Oh well, if you pay me that and I'll cook your food, I would have cooked your food for you."
Yeah,
I would have actually made you a meal prep. And wouldn't I said, yeah, but the fact is, you're not doing it yourself. And the
yeah,
fact is, I was in such a bad mental state of getting myself in that routine of not
mm,
doing the things that I should be doing and focusing on myself mentally and physically. It's again catapulted me into being able to think of ways, think of things in different light, and also being able to have less frustrating moments. I'm no longer frustrated with myself just because I can't sleep. It's the case of I'm having a lot more better days. You're taking more pride in yourself, and you're enjoying the actual day a lot more, knowing the fact that you don't have to jump in a swimming pool with a top on, for example, when you're going on holidays.
preach it. Yeah, preach
And
it.
we've probably all been there at some point. But again, if you're body conscious, if you're mentally drained, and whatever it is, have that fuck it moment and just
Yeah,
say, okay, let's give it a go. what's the worst that can happen? I get in better shape. I learn something new. I start being more mindfully clear. What's the worst that can happen? You have to spend that money. You can always earn that back. So
exactly.
you're better focusing on yourself.
I love it. Absolutely love it. And I've loved being a part of your journey today. And we've actually had some really nice conversations along the way, actually, haven't we? From, jumping on our accountability calls or ad hoc calls, whether that's, just talking about life or talking about business and talking about loads of things. But it's been, a fantastic journey. I'm glad and really appreciate you coming on the podcast. I'm glad we had the opportunity to do this as well, because this is a conversation that has a slightly different foundation to the other ones in terms of the reasoning. Like, a lot of people work with us inside the Consistency Club for the physiological benefit, for the habits and the lifestyle, but actually coming from the standpoint of mental health, which so many people will relate to when they listen to this, and hopefully we can get it to as many people as possible. But, we know in today's world it's more acceptable to talk about it, particularly men's mental health. But for that to be a driving factor, you understand now the true link between physiological health, mental health, and the habitual system you set within your life. And I think if you look at anxiety, for a lot of us, usually in some case, it stems from that burning feeling of like, I know I should have done that, or I wanted to do that, or I need to do that, and I haven't done it.
Oh, I've done it.
And,
I have it all the time.
yeah.
But still to this day, I still in my mind tried to talk myself out of things. But again, it's the case of, if you can talk yourself out of it, you can talk yourself into it. So instead of having to do that, though, just do it. Just again, tell yourself, fuck it, let's do it.
I love it, mate. I love it. I love that we're swearing on the LinkedIn stream as well. Let's do it.
Yeah. So what apologies for that.
Yeah, no, mate. Don't apologize to anyone. We're expressive. Well, look, I've loved the journey. Summarize your experience for me in one last sentence with inside the Consistency Club. Sometimes I give a 5-word limit, but let's go bigger than that. Just summarize your experience and how you feel now we've come kind of to the end of phase 1.
Put me on the spot, no? Eventful and life-changing.
Love it. Talk to me about the life-changing part. And usually I don't dig on this, but...
Well, this is what I mean. You get calls constantly. Life-changing in terms of the way I'm looking at things. And again, it's the simple things of just getting outside the house. It's the simple things of, not looking at things that it needs to be black and white. You need to have 100% in it, or you need to be, at zero. You either put all your time and effort in, or none at all. And I think that, again, I always look at things as a balance. So having that balance and life-changing in terms of the way that I'm perceiving myself on what I need to do, and taking accountability, again, coming back to that again, instead of blaming other people, instead of blaming the things around me, I'm now saying, right, this is on me. And again, what impacts is going to have on the kids, what I do is going to impact them. I can only change that. It'd be nice if they went out and paid and got for shopping and things like that. But again, it's the case of, for me, without me doing it, they ain't going to do it. So it's the case of, I can only do it myself, change myself, and take accountability for anything that, both in positive and negative.
Love it. Mate, it's been, like I said before, and I've said it previously, it's been a joy to be part of your process today. And
likewise,
I think you're fantastic. We align on a lot of things, and that's why, like I said, we've had some brilliant conversations along the journey, and hopefully they don't stop. But really appreciate you joining me on this episode of the Consistency Club. Thank you to anyone watching. We will stop there, but stay tuned for the next one. Thanks again, Chris.
Pleasure. Thanks very much.